Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of March 1st, 2022. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, invitations were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants in the meeting tonight. All applicants should be on mute at the start of the meeting and will need to manually unmute your microphone or your telephone in order to speak. Please remember to place yourself back on mute once you have finished speaking in order to minimize background noise. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones to introduce and confirm the presence of our commissioners. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners and also to the citizens of Douglas County, thank you for joining us for our joint planning and zoning meeting today of March 1st, 2022. I'll start with roll call. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Okay, Commissioner Robinson.
Present.
Commissioner Carthen.
Present.
Okay, Commissioner Guider.
Present.
And Chairman Jones. Board of Commissioners, we do have an established quorum, and thank you so much. I'll yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. If you would confirm your presence as I call your name. We have Rob Thomas, our Vice Chair.
Present.
Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Oric Curry.
Present.
Brandon Penniman.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
And Kirk Nicholson. Mr. Nicholson. He may not have joined us yet. He may join us a little bit later. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a quorum of Planning and Zoning Board. Ron Roberts, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff and Planning and Zoning staff present in our meeting. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Present this evening is our County Attorney, Michael Coleman, our our Deputy County Administrator, Fred Perry, Development and Planning Director, James Worthington, Transportation Director, Miguel Valentin, Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer, Senior Planner, Allison Duncan, and the Clerk of the Planning and Zoning Board, Johanna Womack.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. There's an reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning tonight. That is, the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners have granted an approval. As far as tonight's procedure goes, I will conduct the public hearing on each matter. Mr. Roberts will announce application, followed by Planning and Zoning staff who will present the application in full. Then either the applicant or the applicant's representative will have 15 minutes to present their request. Members of the public in favor of the application will be able to present their information. They will have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Also, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to an application will have the same 3 minutes per person or a total of 30 minutes to speak on behalf of the application. After the opposition completes their input or the 30 minutes has elapsed, the public hearing will be officially closed. At this point, the staff will clarify any points of the zoning case. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative for points of clarification. This is not a time for the applicant to represent their information. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Also, our first agenda item tonight would be the approval of the minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Joint Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board, after reviewing the minutes, does any Planning and Zoning member have any comments, changes, or questions to these minutes? Hearing none, Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 1st, 2022 meeting?
Mr. Chairman, it's Kurt Nicholson. I vote to approve.
I have a
I
motion.
motion to
Do I have
approve,
a
sorry.
second? I'm
Frank
sorry,
Payne,
now-
second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Payne. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call on a vote. Please vote in the affirmative to approve the minutes or the negative to not approve the minutes. Mr. Thomas,
Approve. Approve.
Ms. Knowles.
Approve.
Somehow I accidentally muted myself. Mr. Penniman,
Approve.
Mr. Curry,
Approve.
Mr. Payne,
Approve.
Mr. Nicholson. He's
Approve.
having trouble with his audio. I'm not sure if he's here or not.
I got it. Approve.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. Motion carries. Madam Chairman, I will yield the floor to you for approval of the Planning and Zoning minutes of February the 1st by the Board of Commissioners. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the February 1st, 2022 meeting minutes. After reviewing those minutes, do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Board of Commissioners, when I call your districts, please vote accordingly. District 1. District 1.
Approved.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries to approve the minutes of February 1st, 2022, and I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our first agenda item tonight?
Absolutely. So our first agenda item is going to be with the Stratos withdrawn, and then the Lincoln Properties is going to request continuance. So the first item is going to be S 2022-14. This is Princess Moore, location 3713 Briarcliff Drive, Douglasville.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, don't we need to go ahead and
Oh,
act
untable it?
on the Lincoln property?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So yes, it's going to be M 2022-02 and Z 2022-N Lincoln Properties. I think Joe Fowler's representing them this evening, Chairman, and they're requesting continuance to the May 3rd. Is it May 3rd meeting? May 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah, May 3rd, 2022. So they're requesting to be tabled to a date certain.
Okay, Mr. Fowler, would you like to make any comments before the board takes up your request to table until the May 3rd meeting?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We have been working diligently and making plans for improvements to Lee Road, widening it so that it mirrors essentially what currently comes off of the interstate and extending it to the north portion of our property. But we don't have all of those details worked out just yet. We've met with members of the staff, but we'd like to get those details ironed out. It's going to take us a bit of time to get that done. It's an extraordinary undertaking on our part. It's expensive. We think we can get it resolved, but it's going to take, we believe, a couple of months to get that done. It's going to take a fairly ongoing interface with the DOT to get that worked out. We've met with some of the staff already. We would ask your permission to get that extended. I'm sorry Mr. Schamberger is not here tonight. He's been with me at every meeting to this point, but unfortunately his daughter was in a bad car accident. So he asked me just to make this announcement on his behalf. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fowler. I can understand the car accidents.
I certainly can. I'm sorry for that.
That's all right. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the request. Do I have a motion to table M 2022-02 and Z 2022-10 until our stated May 3rd, 2022 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I make a motion to table 02Z 2022-10 until our June meeting.
May meeting, May the 3rd.
May the 3rd meeting, yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Planning and Zoning Board, I'll call for a vote on the motion to table until May 3rd, 2022. Mr. Thomas?
Yay.
Ms. Knowles?
Yay.
Mr. Penniman?
Approve.
Mr. Curry?
Yay.
Mr. Payne?
Yay.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Madam Chairman, I will turn it over to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation to table M 2022-02 and Z 2022-10 Lincoln Property Company until our stated meeting on May 3rd, 2022. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to table M 2022-02 and also Z 2022-10 until our May 3rd, 2022 meeting?
So moved as stated.
Okay, do we have a
Second.
do we have a motion and a second? Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, respond accordingly. District 1. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes, we have a 5 unanimous vote to table M 2022-02 and Z 2022-10, and the motion carries to table. I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Fowler, wish you and Mr. Schamberger the best, and we look forward to seeing you in May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll see you in a little while. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next agenda item, please?
Absolutely. Now let's introduce S 2022-14, Princess Moore, 3713 Briarcliff Drive, Douglasville, 30135, Land Lot 100, 2nd District, 5th Section, Parcel 218. Current zoning is RLD. This request is for a special use permit for in-home daycare on 0.48 acres, and it's Commission District Number 4. Staff's recommendation is approval with conditions. This is Allison Duncan's case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roberts. In regard to the existing zoning, property is zoned residential low density. I have an image of the zoning map up on your screen right now. Here is an aerial image of the property. You can see the property outlined in red there at the intersection of Briarcliff and Glenwood Drive. Here is the view of the property from Briarcliff Drive. And here's a view of the property at the intersection of Briarcliff Drive and Glenwood Drive. Staff did analyze the special use permit criteria for the in-home daycare, and we did find that it was substantially compatible with the criteria of the Unified Development Code. Therefore, the Planning Department is recommending approval of the request for the in-home daycare with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall keep no more than 6 children in the home for compensation under the special use permit. Number 2, all stipulations of the Douglas County Unified Development Code to in-home daycares must be met prior to the issuance of an occupational tax certificate. Number 3, hours of operation will be Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And number 4, the applicant must satisfy all environmental health requirements of the Douglas County Public Health Department prior to the issuance of a business license. That concludes my report. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. If you would just stand by, will the applicant please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, present any information you would like the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners to hear. You would have a total of 15 minutes for your presentation. Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
This is Princess Moore. I currently stay at 3713 Briarcliff Drive, of course, here in Douglasville. zip code 30135. And I'm excited about this. It's been a long time coming. And my whole purpose for it, of course, is to be able to reach children on a smaller scale. Right now, I am currently a pre-K teacher. I've been doing that for 5 years. Certified educator. I graduated from University of West Georgia, so I do have the background in education. And like I said, I just want to be able to reach children on a smaller scale, reach those stay-at-home parents or work right now, work from home families who need that time dedicated to the education of their children.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Moore. You have heard the conditions that have been placed on this. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I needed that for the record. If you would just stand by, please. I'm now going to open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, seeing none, I will close the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor and open the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application. Please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing or seeing none, I will now close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of staff or Ms. Moore?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I do have a question for Ms. Moore.
Go ahead.
Ms. Moore, is your daycare covered under the auspice of right from the start?
Yes. Yes, it will be. This process right here is actually the first step that they are looking for before I turn in my application. So as soon as this is done, then I will submit my application in addition to whatever other information they're needing.
Okay, so have they give you preliminary as far as how many children you can have there at one time?
Yes, their recommendation is 3 to 6.
Okay, is that because of the size of the backyard or how many people you're going to have working?
This is across the board. This is right from the start recommendation or requirement.
What about a sprinkler system? Is that not required?
No, sir. Sprinkler system is not required.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
I have, Mr. Chairman, this is Teresa Knowles. I have a question of Ms. Moore.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Moore, how many hours of the day will you actually be schooling the children as opposed to just daycare?
The hours are 9 to 2.
Yes, ma'am. And how much of those hours will be actual schooling be involved?
The entire time.
The entire time.
In addition to their playtime, being outside, I know that will be required.
Okay, and their ages are school age or preschool?
Yes, ma'am, preschool. Between the ages of 3 and 5.
3 and 5. Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes. Mr.
Yes, Ms. Moore, this is Frank Payne. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Since there's going to be additional traffic coming into your area, have you had an opportunity to talk to your neighbors to let them know what you plan on doing?
Yes, that was actually the requirement before this meeting, and all of my neighbors are very excited about the opportunity for me. So they were very encouraging of it.
So traffic won't be a problem? Additional
sir.
cars? Okay, thank you.
No, so, yeah, sure.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Mr. Chairman, I do, and as we are aware, I've had audio problems tonight, and I don't know if the applicants agreed to the 4 conditions as read into the record by staff or not.
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. Again, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Chair, I'll yield the floor to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Moore or either our staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Commissioner Guider, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Moore. I noticed that your hours is from 9 to 2, which is not the normal work hours. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, ma'am, it is. My husband and I, we have our own children, and the 9 to 2 is to also help me be able to put my mommy hat on and have time with my children, because they will be getting out of school. And, you know, and the 9 o'clock one is allowing me time to get them to school and then being home to be able to take care of my students.
What about the parents that may work past 2 o'clock?
Honestly, I would not be the center for them. My target is, like I said, your stay-at-home parents or your work-from-home parents, those that would be able to get that support within that time frame.
Okay, I didn't know if you catered to maybe school teachers or what, or people like that, so I didn't know. Now, I notice you have a nice fence, and I assume it goes all the way around the backyard, and it will be latched and so they can't get out. But one other thing I must bring up, and Allison, if you will kind of help me with this, I know the state allows 6 children, and we allow 6 children in our planning and zoning code. However, our fire marshal is only going to allow 5. Were you aware of that?
So just to clarify, the fire marshal has put a stipulation in there that is a condition of the occupational tax certificate that he may require a sprinkler system upon inspection of the house for keeping more than 5 children. Ms. Moore and I have discussed that, and that would be the call of the fire marshal at the time that he makes inspection of the property as a condition of issuing the occupational tax certificate.
Allison, do we need to make that one of the conditions?
In my opinion, we do not. I think that is something that is within the jurisdiction of the fire marshal to make that determination when he goes out there to make inspection. If he says that she can only have 5 children at the time he makes inspection, then that will be what is recorded on her occupational tax certificate. But the state regulation and the planning and zoning code allow up to 6 children. You certainly can limit it to 5 children if that's the will of the Board of Commissioners. But I would say that it assumes a decision that the fire marshal has yet to make. So I would just leave it open to his discretion at the time that he actually makes that decision upon the inspection of the property.
I just want Mrs. Moore to say whether or not she's in agreement with whatever the fire marshal says too. It doesn't have anything to do with your zoning, but I'm just letting you know that he could come back and say you can only have 5 children. So you understand that? So just say yes.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, thank you. And with that, I'll yield back. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. Any other questions or remarks, Board? Okay, being none, I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion on this matter. Could I have a motion on Z 2021-14, please?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-14, a request for a special use permit for an in-home daycare with the conditions as presented by planning staff.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Rob Thomas. I second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, sir. Isn't this a special use permit only, Mr. Chairman, not a rezoning?
That is correct. Special use permit only.
So it would be S 2022-14.
Yes. Did I say Z?
Everyone has said Z.
I'm sorry. It is
Not
S.
just you.
S
Okay.
2022-14.
Okay,
Special
thank
use
you.
permit only.
That's all I had to say.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All wishing to vote in favor of the recommendation, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Nicholson,
Yay.
Mr. Payne,
Yay.
Mr. Curry,
Yay.
Mr. Penniman, Mr. Penniman,
Yay. Brandon Penniman, yay.
thank you. Ms. Knowles,
Yay.
Mr. Thomas,
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Madam Chairman, I will turn it over to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation unanimous by the board to approve S 2022-14.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and the answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-14, a request of a special use permit for an in-home daycare with the conditions as presented by staff and approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. I'm gonna call your district, please. Vote accordingly. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries to approve S 2022-14. And thank you so much, Board of Commissioners. The motion carries and I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Ms. Moore, we wish you the best going ahead with this. Best of luck to you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are certainly welcome. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our next agenda item, please?
Yes, Chairman. It's S 2022-15. Tracy Payne is the applicant and the property owner at Veterans Memorial Highway, Douglasville, 30134. Land lot 441 and 442 in the 18th District, 2nd Section, Parcel 7. Current zoning is light industrial with conditions. This is a special use permit request on 5.07 acres. The proposed use is truck parking lot facility. Staff's recommendation is approval with conditions. This is
Thank you
Allison.
very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case. Mr. Schaefer, would you give us the staff findings and recommendations?
I'm sure it is.
This is actually Allison Duncan's case.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was
No
Mr.
problem.
Schaefer's. Go ahead, Ms. Duncan.
No problem. We work as a team, so I will always encourage him to jump in if he has any comments. But this request from Ms. Payne is an application that you did see 6 months ago when she brought forward the application for a truck and trailer parking. Property is located on the north side of Veterans Memorial Highway, adjacent to the railroad right-of-way. The property is currently vacant and densely wooded and is located in the highway corridor overlay. This was considered for rezoning to LI for an intermodal truck facility back in 2007, but this request was denied. This was considered again for rezoning to light industrial with no proposed use. That was in 2020. And at that time, the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners recommended to approve the rezoning with a condition that required coordination with GDOT to identify any required right-of-way and design around those parameters. The property was considered for a special use permit in August of 2021. That request was denied, and the applicant has waited 6 months, which is the required time under our code to refile and request reconsideration of the application. So the applicant is proposing to develop the property as a heavy truck and trailer parking lot. It will be secured through a perimeter fence with electronic access. The applicant proposes that security patrols will ride through the property at designated intervals. There's a site plan that I will share in just a moment that shows a conceptual layout of the proposed parking lot. The site plan proposes about 45 truck parking spaces. There is a landscape detail that has been submitted to demonstrate compliance with the front landscape buffer requirements. These are per Article 3, Section 331 of the Unified Development Code. And the applicant proposes to limit truck idling to approximately 10 minutes during summer and spring and 20 minutes during fall and winter to allow appropriate warm-up time and pressure buildup for trucks that are leaving the parking lot. The applicant has also volunteered that truck owners will not be allowed to sleep in their trucks overnight on the property. So here is the zoning map showing the light industrial zoning on the property. And here is an aerial view of the property. Here is the site plan showing the portion of the property that is usable. There is some environmental considerations that renders this portion of the property unusable. And so what you're seeing here is the portion of the property that they propose to use for the truck parking spaces. And here is a landscape detail that shows the density of the trees and shrubs that are required in accordance with Article 331 of the code that they are proposing will be built to buffer the truck parking from the highway right-of-way. Staff has analyzed the special use permit criteria in the code, and we have found it to be generally in alignment with the criteria of the Unified Development Code. Therefore, the Planning Department is recommending that the special use permit for heavy truck parking be approved with the following conditions. Number one, the proposed use of the LI zone parcel will increase truck and trailer traffic considerably along Veterans Memorial Highway to a point that improvements of a right turn deceleration lane for the proposed driveway is shown, as well as an eastbound left turn lane are required to comply with the UDC. These turn lanes are a direct impact due to the demand concentrated at the proposed and excessive delay to vehicles blocked from the through traffic movement. Number two, the proposed driveway entrance shall be shifted to a line opposite the existing driveway of Sunrise Gardens of Memories. Number three, a minimum of 5-foot wide sidewalk with 4-foot sodded median is required along the entire property frontage with GDOT approval. Number four, provide curb and gutter with appropriate drainage structures along the entire property frontage with GDOT approval. Number five, additional requirements may be implemented by GDOT upon plan submittal. Number six, a copy of the GDOT permit is required for all work within the right-of-way. Number seven, to satisfy the design requirements of the UDC, the applicant will meet the requirements of Article 3, Section 331E for a 20-foot landscape strip with 3 canopy trees, 3 understory trees, 2 evergreen coniferous trees, and 18 shrubs for 100 feet of linear frontage, and the requirement for 3-rail fence with brick supporting columns in Article 4, Division 4, Section 4.235A. The property will comply with all fencing and lighting requirements of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. See, Ms. Payne is here. If you would unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, then you may present any information you would like for the Zoning and Planning Board to hear and the Board of Commissioners. You would have a total of 15 minutes for your presentation. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Women's History Month. I am Tracy Payne. I'm a Douglasville resident. My address is 3745 Rifflewood Way. And I am a single mother, cybersecurity engineer, the owner and developer of the property that was presented to you. And I truly appreciate the Board of Commissioners and Planning and Zoning's consideration of obtaining a special use permit to be able to develop and provide convenient and affordable parking options for tractor trailers. One of my consultants, Theo Stone, and I will be glad to answer any questions. I would like to state that this is not a truck stop. This is simply a parking lot. Per the staff report, the Cemetery Commission has noted that there are no applicable impacts. We attended and participated in the community meeting that was held on February the 8th. We spent approximately 1 hour answering the adjacent business owners' questions and concerns with tree removal, traffic, and truck idling. On February 11th and 12th, I met with numerous local business owners to discuss the proposed development and answer any questions that they had. In regards to parking lot operations, as Allison mentioned, as far as security goes, we plan to have the standard pole-mounted lighting, the perimeter fencing, and we also have 24/7 camera surveillance and posted no trespassing signs. In regards to the truck idling, we will also have postage that will provide signage on the parking lot and include that idling time in the contract for the use of each vehicle. And at this time, I will turn it over to my consultant, Theo Stone.
Unmute myself. I'm sorry. Good evening. This is Theo Stone with Atwell, 1255 Lakes Parkway, Lawrenceville, Georgia. As Ms. Payne mentioned, the project proposed in front of you is a parking lot, not a truck stop, in support of the truck traffic that supports the industrial businesses within this corridor. It will be designed in accordance with all local and state guidelines as it relates to building setbacks, access to the state route, coordination with GDOT, as well as stormwater management. The layout as proposed currently is about 45 spaces. In concept, when fully engineered, it should be somewhere within that parameter. It may increase by 1 or 2 or decrease. Once we actually grade the property, we've had some discussions, as Ms. Payne mentioned, with staff about the configuration of it. Once we revise it based on those comments and feedback, that could affect it as well. The shift of the access to align with the cemetery is not an issue. We can make that happen. Everything will be subject to GDOT approval once we do that, but we will coordinate with them should the project be granted the required approval by council tonight. If you have any other questions, I am happy and able to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stone. Ms. Payne, before we go any further, you have heard Ms. Duncan read in the 8 conditions on this matter. Are you in agreement with those 8 conditions?
I am in agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, then make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Norm DeWalt, 1515 Kincaid Road, Marietta, Georgia, and I support the zoning. But I wanted to ask you, on my property, you made me agree to a 90-foot setback. And that was in accordance with the 4-lane coming through. Has anything changed on that? Because, you know, if you do a bunch of landscaping and stuff and then it ends up being torn out, it'd be better to do a berm and compact the hollies or something. Because originally they wanted 90 feet from us when I did the zoning with you guys. So I'm just concerned about, you know, the impact of the cost that it's going to be to Tracy. So I don't know, has anything changed with that 90-foot setback?
Ms. Duncan, can you answer that question?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm not familiar exactly where Mr. DeWalt's property is. If he had gotten that question to me in advance, I could possibly have answered it, but I don't think I would want to just try to make something up without more context here in the meeting. So I apologize. I'm not comfortable answering that question off the top of my head. I would say that the conditions that were, excuse me, I would say that the conditions that were provided to us with this application were provided by our Department of Transportation. So I'm going to defer to our Department of Transportation to take care of whatever would be needed to satisfy the requirements for the highway.
So can I get an update on that too, as well as what the setback would be now?
You would need to do that outside of this meeting. This is a place for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application.
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address, then make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person with a total allocated time of 30 minutes. And I believe we have a number of people that would like to speak. So if you want to say something that somebody else has already said, it would be nice to the folks waiting in line for you just to say you agreed with what had happened earlier or what had been presented earlier, and then let somebody else have their time also. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. You 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes total.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, you said anyone that would like to speak in favor.
I'm sorry, in opposition. This is opposition. I thought I had a number of people on my list here that wish to speak.
Yes, you do. Can it be heard?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm John James. I live at 459 Greystone Lane in Greystone Golf Estates. I also have property that is on the back side of the Mrs. Payne's property. And I'm here to speak in objection to it because I have to deal with this truck traffic every day now. We already have one at the intersection of Ben Hill Road and 78 that creates a problem. Trying to get in and out when they're trying to get in. It's been in violation of Douglas County's code, been turned over to violation enforcement, but nothing is done. The second thing that I have to bring up at this is also the fact that when you put GDOT into the mix of this to give approval to make a left turn lane and a deceleration lane, you have to think there's only 4 between the city of Douglasville and Thornton Road that GDOT's ever done. So I don't think they'll ever do one at this particular place on 78. If they don't, that backs up traffic all the way back up to North Burn Hickory when trucks are trying to turn left and you can't make it. It is difficult for the people at McKinney Drive and Ben Hill Road and the people on that side of the railroad track to get out at the time these trucks are coming in if we've got traffic backed up in every direction on this highway. I don't understand why this GDOT's not already done and approved before it comes to planning and zoning and before it comes to the county commissioners for approval, and not approved on condition that they get this done, because we all know that it takes GDOT 20 years to do anything, and therefore you're going to have a truck parking that's going to be going on the whole time. Even though this is special use, it's not her problem. It now becomes GDOT's problem, and they don't really get in a hurry for anything. They're supposed to do this 4-lane road 20 years ago, and they haven't done it. So I just think it doesn't need to be. We don't need to deal with the traffic. We got enough problems on this end with truck traffic and car traffic, and this is just adding to more traffic backing up on 78 so nobody can get home or get in and out anytime during the day and night. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and you had 3 minutes. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
This is Carl Calendar, Mr. Carl Calendar. Address is 2285 Peachtree Street, Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, 30309. I'm the general manager at Sunrise Memorial Gardens, which is a cemetery right across the street where this truck parking is supposed to be in place. Just speaking for the community of people, for their loved ones, there is enough traffic on that part of Veterans Memorial Highway we're having trucks and a truck parking would not even, it's kind of sort of disrespectful to have that there across the street from the cemetery. I'm speaking on behalf of the cemetery, and I'm also speaking on behalf of the people in the family that have their loved ones laying in rest at that location. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Callender. We appreciate your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Unmute your system. You have 3 minutes per person. Hearing none or seeing no one wishing to unmute your system at this point in time, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any questions for the applicant or the staff?
Mr. Chairman, I think I have a statement, maybe a question regarding the cemetery across the street. If I'm not mistaken, at various holidays, they have special ceremonial services for the military, and I just wonder if Ms. Payne is aware of those services that Sunrise conducts, like Memorial Day, and how the trucks might have a negative impact for the service members and attendees at those ceremonies, if she's aware of those.
No, Ms. Knowles, I'm not aware of that. I've spoken with people that work at the cemetery, and no one has ever mentioned those events to me.
Okay, just right across the street, right at the front of the property, I know it's a set-aside piece of the cemetery for military members, and then they do have special ceremonial services 3 times a year. But okay, I just wanted you to be aware of those services. And while I have your attention, what are your hours of operation?
The hours of operation would be 24/7 because truck drivers most of their jobs are 24/7. Most truck drivers I have talked to, most of them either get a early morning start or a late night start. I don't think that the traffic would increase greatly. The noise would impact greatly, no more than what it is, not much more than what it is now. I've stood out on my property a few times just to look at the traffic that's coming and going during rush hour, and I don't, think it will greatly increase because most truck drivers, like I said, get an early morning start or come in late.
Will you be offering like bathroom facilities on the parcel on your land?
No.
No? You said no?
No, ma'am.
No, okay, but lighting, you will be having lighting that would
Yes,
probably
ma'am.
face in towards your land only, not across the street toward the cemetery, but only on your property?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board, for the applicant or staff?
Yes,
this is
Mr.
Brandon.
Payne. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, go ahead, Frank.
No, I was just going to ask Ms. Payne whether or not, what type of security will be provided?
I will have 24/7 camera surveillance. There will, of course, be lighting. There will be a electronic gate entry, and there will be security that comes in throughout every hour to monitor the parking lot.
I guess my concern is someone is going to have to, are they going to have their cars parked there? Or are they going to, because someone is going to have to come in and let them in and out so they can leave their trucks. So how is that going to be handled?
Well, they will have an electronic gate entry where they will either have a key card or electronic something similar to what you have for like the HOA lane. And then they will be allowed to park their cars there. That's why I'll have the high perimeter fences and the lighting and the camera surveillance and the drive-through security to monitor those items.
So you're saying that you might have cars and trucks parked there?
Yes, they will have to come and park their cars and leave in their truck and vice versa.
Okay.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, this is Brandon Penham. I got a quick question for staff. So in regards to the statement from one of the other constituents, in regards to the GDOT, is that a stipulation that the GDOT approval needs to happen first, or how does that work in regards to the lane and GDOT getting that lane created, and how does that affect if this property will be able to begin operation?
So I think if Director Valentine is on the line, he may be better prepared to address that question than I would be. But my understanding is generally GDOT is not going to give you any sort of direction as to what they will require until they are actually reviewing, your site plan and your application for access to the highway. But I would defer to Director Valentine if he would like to correct or clarify anything that I have shared.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Exactly what you said is correct. The plan gets submitted to GDOT because even though our code has certain criteria, the ultimate jurisdiction on a state route is GDOT's. So essentially the plan has to be designed in accordance with the local standards and then submit it to GDOT for their concurrence. If there's a situation where GDOT does not approve an element that's on the plan, then that is something that we would defer to them on. But the stipulations in our report are the requirements of the local code. Of course, we have to defer to GDOT because of their jurisdiction on that route.
Okay, so would they be able to begin the grading process or begin operations prior to being approved by GDOT, or would the GDOT approval have to happen first before they can start operation or preparation for operation?
We would have to have the GDOT approval, a copy of the approved plan, before we would sign off on the local approval.
Okay, that totally answers my question. So GDOT would have to be approved first before anything could truly happen here in Douglas County. Okay, that's what I needed to hear. I truly appreciate you, Mr. Valentine. Thank you so much. I yield.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, any more questions of staff or Ms. Payne?
I do have a question of Ms. Payne again, Chairman, and again, with audio issues, I'm not sure if this question was asked. How high is this security fence you're talking about, and what's it capped with?
I'm hoping to have the fence about 10 feet high to at least cover the height of the trucks. And can you ask again what you mean? What is it covered with? I'm sorry.
Well, I know in some places you see like concertina wire or something across the top of it to keep people from even trying to scale that. So I was just curious if you have plans for capping it with something else. So.
We, council member, we haven't gotten that far in the process. At a minimum, it will have secure fencing, height somewhere in the area of 10 feet is where we are at this point in time. And again, the plan is presented is concept showing the proposed configuration layout and perimeter controls, but the specific details as to what kind of additional preventive measures will be atop the fence haven't been decided at this time.
Great, thank you. I need to direct another question to Ms. Duncan then, if I could please. And Allison, in this case, as we've done in the past, are we require any kind of opaque covering on the outside of this fence, or does it need to be wide open for security purposes?
Mr. Schaefer can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe that we have a requirement that they do have to have some sort of opaque screening on the fence, in addition to the buffer, the landscape buffer that's required, I do believe that they're going to be required to have some sort of opaque screening. I think it can be like the slats in the fence and things like that, but they are going to be required to have some sort of opaque screening. Is that correct?
Correct.
Bill? Yes.
So I guess then the other side of me wonders, what's that going to look like from the cemetery side of the street? So I just throwing that out there. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes. So just a reminder, from the cemetery side of the street, they'll see the landscaping. The landscaping is what's required along the entire frontage of the property. But the perimeter fencing will go around the perimeter, and then the landscaping will be in front of it.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is
yes.
Mr. Curry. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Curry.
Yeah, I have a question. Are you planning on, is any of the trucks, well, trailers, going to have refrigeration? Because that is a key. If, you know, they leave a truck there overnight or they're coming in, will it have refrigerator, or you haven't looked into that? Because leaving a truck with refrigeration means it has to continue to run, or that generator has to continue to run that's with that truck. I mean, with that trailer. Are you screening for those, or you're not?
With the idling times that will be in the contract, they will not allow to leave their trucks running for more than 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the season.
Okay. That's all.
This is Frank Payne again. I just have one other question. The size of the lot, the property, is how many acres?
It's 5 acres, but only 3, and I think 3.5 or 3.25 will be able to be developed.
It's actually less than that, Ms. Payne, and forgive my interruption. The parcel is approximately 5 acres. Based on the site plan in front of you, the maximum that could be disturbed is approximately 2.7, 2.8 acres. So only about half of the total parcel can be utilized for development due to the buffers and the waterway on the eastern side of it.
Do you have any plans to add additional room for more trucks later on?
Tracy, you want me to take this?
No, there's no space to do so.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
No, there's no space to do so.
There's no, okay. All right.
Any other questions from Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no questions from Planning and Zoning Board, Madam Chairman, I'll yield the floor to the Board of Commissioners for any questions they may have of Ms. Payne, Mr. Stone, or staff.
Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Payne or Mr. Stone or the staff this time?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
No, I yield, Madam Chair. I yield.
Commissioner, I think I heard Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes, I just got a couple of questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Ms. Payne, so we're speaking of cars and 18-wheelers. How is the parking layout for both? And I know they'll drop off the car to pick up the 18-wheeler or vice versa. With the amount of stalls, how is that going to be worked out? So would there be several stalls for X, a number of cars, or to offset the number of stalls for potentially X when it comes to the 18-wheelers?
I'll take this one, Tracy. As currently laid out in concept, there's roughly 45 spaces. On the perimeter of the lot as shown, there is the ability to lay out standard car parking spaces of 9x18 to 9x20 in support of the truck and trailer spaces. On some occasions, I'm confident that the driver of the truck, once it's moved, will place his personal vehicle in his space to prohibit someone else from using his space, even though they have contracts and will have assigned spaces. Human nature sometimes gets in the way of things, but this plan does have room to allocate standard car parking for when they drop off their personal vehicle to pick up their work vehicle.
So you're roughly you're 48, or help me out with that number again. Was it 40?
It's the plan in front, the plan on the screen currently reflects 45,
45
truck spaces.
So 45 potential truck parkings, and the offset will be them trying to get around the mere fact of
Did we lose you, Commissioner?
I think we did. I can't hear him. I'm not sure if anyone else can.
No,
Okay.
he dropped.
Hear him either.
Drop. Just what we'll do, we had a question from our vice chairman, and then as soon as Commissioner Mitchell come back, we'll see what we'll just allow him to take the floor. Vice Chair, do you have a question? I'm just trying to.
Yep, I'll buy him some time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Right, no, just one simple question, Director Valentin. Director Valentin, you may or may not know this. General car traffic on 78 and truck volume, do you understand how much volume comes along daily? I know Lee Road, Fairham Road, Thornton Road, where you've given us those statistics several times. What about 78, and is there a distinguishing difference the amount of truck traffic that comes along there? Just curious.
78 in that area, it's between 13 and 14,000 vehicles a day.
Okay.
And the truck traffic is probably around 5%.
About 5, 6, or something. Okay. All right.
It's about 650 trucks, sir.
Yep, I did it. I'm quick. I can count. Thank you. No, appreciate that. No, I got it. So then the next question becomes, no, that was it. I just wanted truck volume. I don't want to belabor this. I was just curious on that. You guys have satisfied my questions, Madam Chair, so I'm going to yield. That's it.
Okay, thank you. You have any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Ryder, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Stone, is there any kind of buffer for the stream? Is there any kind of buffer or protection for the stream that's on this property?
Yes, there exist 3 state waters and then 2 local buffers that are in place to date that protect both sides of the waterway. We plan to adhere to those buffers. There is a small potential for the 75-foot buffer, which is the one furthest away from the waterway, to grade in that in support of the parking lot. But other than that, we have no intent to encroach in them any further. And Douglasville ordinance does allow for that.
Okay. And another thing, it looks very narrow between the parking spaces and then the common area where the trucks would pull in. So they would have to be backing into their lot. Is there has enough room been left between?
There has been, as I mentioned earlier, there will be, provided we are successful tonight, some tweaks and adjustments that will occur to this plan. But by dimension, it does have enough room for a 73-foot truck and trailer. That's the overall length of a standard full-size truck that we see on the interstate to circumnavigate this parking lot as shown. We've got about 60 feet between the bays in the front and the bays in the rear of the property. And then there's a 20-foot drive in the rear of the property as well. But upon full design and development, it will be able to be navigated by a truck of that size.
Okay, I know they can turn real sharply with their trailer and everything. One other question, and this is just for clarity. I think I heard Mrs. Payne say that most of the traffic will be either early, very early, or in the late afternoon, which would not interfere with the cemetery across the street. Did I understand her correctly?
You did. Ms. Payne mentioned that most drivers start early in the morning or late in the evening.
Okay. All right. With that, I yield back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Ryder. Commissioner Mitchell, are you?
Yeah, I made it back. I apologize, guys. I'm in a little rough area, so
Okay.
and I don't know if I missed much of the Q&A, but so back to my initial question, I think I was asking about the stalls. Excuse me, about the stalls. So you've accommodated for both cars and trucks, but they'll interchange with themselves. When the driver is in, he'll leave his car, and then he'll come back, and where his car is parked is where the truck and or trailer will be parked. Am I correct in that statement?
That will happen in some of the spaces, and then we do have the ability to place on the perimeter standard vehicle parking as well. I think it'll be subject to the individual that has leased a space from Ms. Payne as to how they park their personal car.
Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Okay. So okay. I think I can count the numbers of cars and potentially 18-wheelers. But okay, left turn out. What's the plan? And I may have missed this part of it, guys. Is there a plan for trucks leaving out of this parking to make a left turn onto 78, or a right turn only?
Currently, the drive as proposed on the current plan is a full access drive with a standard right turn deceleration lane in accordance with GDOT criteria. The plan currently does not reflect a left turn lane. Douglasville ordinance requires it. The number of vehicles and the trip generation by the number of vehicles does not trigger a left turn based on GDOT criteria. That's one thing that will be sorted out should we be successful this evening to get to the point where we do full documents and submit plans to GDOT. With the proposed shift by Douglas County DOT, it would still be a full access entrance, which would enable any vehicle coming out to have the ability to go right or to go left.
So that'll be determined, I guess, once we go through all the GDOT stuff, and that will be determined at that point. I would assume
That's correct. GDOT could potentially have us restricted to be right in, right out, but we don't know that at this time. I will share that they have seen a copy of this plan as a part of the preliminary due diligence for Ms. Payne and the property, and the configuration as shown is what they've viewed.
Commissioner Mitchell, are you still there? Seems like he dropped off again. Any other questions or remarks from the board? Just trying to buy a little time. I do have one question I would like to, I have a question for Ms. Payne. Ms. Payne, I see you've made a concerted effort to address one of the concerns I had early on, which was related to idling. And certainly we want to be very respectful to controlling emissions. My question to you, I heard you said you have addressed that, but can you talk about the monitoring system you have to determine if the idling is occurring for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and tell me what happens if the idling exceeds those parameters? Or do you have some type of system that tells you that idling only occurred for 10 minutes?
Well, with the electronic gate entry, we can see how what time they come in, and we can keep a record of that. And with the physical security that drives through and monitors, they will be able to see if there are any trucks that are currently idle when they get there, and look at the data to see what time they came in, to look at and how long they've been idle, and they can address it at that point.
Really, that wasn't really what I was expecting to hear. I was hoping you had a device somewhere that would tell us it's been 10 minutes, or you would have some way to monitor it, like a dashboard type that you would have to gauge, or something that is a code or something. I'm just not sure. There has to be something that can actually track the the idling. It may not be anything that has been invented yet. I may need to have a patent something. There's something out there that you've heard of.
Well, I have talked to numerous truck drivers, and they have not made me aware of anything that can actually monitor it. I am continuing my research, looking to see if there is such devices that are out there, because I know that was a concern of yours with the last hearing about the idling times.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's one that weighs heavy on my heart. My background is healthcare, so the board allows me to wear my hat when it comes to health, and that's one I'm concerned about. And I was hoping, when you mentioned it earlier, I said, wow, she's discovered some type of device out there that would monitor that 10 to 20 minute regulation or parameter that you instituted. So to me, it's still nebulous. It's not clear. Okay. Thank you for answering my question. Commissioner Mitchell, are you back yet?
Yes, and I apologize.
There you go. Okay, there you go.
Oh my God, this is not going to work. So hopefully I don't drop off again here, though. Okay. So last but not least, so you guys are fully aware that, and I know it's been a 20-year run, if not longer, the widening of 78.
Yes.
Yes, we are aware.
Okay. So in the event that come to fruition and it happens, that could eliminate, potentially, if this passes, the amount of roughly 48 potential stalls, I guess, or kind of what's that plan be if it did happen? What do you guys kind of envision what this would be now?
Tracy, you mind if I take this one?
Sure.
The plan as laid out, even when I think a gentleman mentioned 90 feet, the truck stall that's directly adjacent to the right-of-way frontage is 73 feet long. In addition to that, we've got the setback from the property line to that point that would account for, if the 90-foot dimension truly is the number, would account for that area. Obviously, with this being a developed, functioning business, GDOT cannot just come in and absorb the property. There will be negotiations for right-of-way taking that would occur with Ms. Payne, and she would have her data and financial records of income that would mitigate that from a business standpoint. But it is configured that a portion of the parking could be lost and the parking lot still function.
Okay. And last but not least, the monitoring of the time frame that you're mentioning. Please help me understand that again. The trucks will only be able to idle for X amount of time. What was that time again?
She mentioned by contract, in the spring it would be about 10 minutes. In the wintertime it would be approximately 20. Would be posted signage on the perimeter fencing, and as a part of the lease, which is what these spaces would be, lease spaces by contract. This would be criteria and conditions that the tenants or the lessees would be agreeing to adhere to as a part of their use of the facility. Her methods of policing would involve, obviously, the 24-hour cameras as well as the hour-by-hour security patrol that would be able to monitor that activity.
Got it. So that was going to be my next question. How do you police that? But the camera, and I'm assuming this is going to be an audio type camera as well, not just strictly video.
It has the ability to do that.
Okay. This is interesting. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there, and I apologize, guys, and I'll do my best as hopefully hanging on here, though. But I'm going to yield, Madam Chair, and let's see kind of where we go from here. What's the next steps?
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Any other comment forward? I just have one little final statement. Ms. Payne, and also Mr. Stoneberry, I'm just certainly, I love research, and I just researched something. It's something called the GeoTab vehicle tracking device, and it has the capability of tracking idling as well. So that may be something you want to look at, research. It is something has been created, or there is a patent out there that will allow you to monitor that idling. So,
Can you repeat the name of that?
It's a geotab. The one thing, madam, is that these are personal vehicles. Geotabs are commonly used with fleet vehicles, where if Ms. Payne owned a trucking company and all of the trucking vehicles were a part of her company's assets, that would enable her to put that device in those trucks. I work for a survey engineering firm. I have approximately 6 vehicles under my purview at the office I'm out of, and we have that system. But it is a company vehicle, and the company has the ability to put that tracker in there. We monitor driving habits, patterns, speeding, things of that nature, and also have the ability to locate a company asset at any given point in time to ensure that it hasn't been stolen and it is where it's supposed to be.
and maybe that could be something that, Ms. Payne, that you could have as one of your conditions or part of your criteria for parking in your, in the structure. You know, if the company, because you indicated, Mr. Stone, that some of the tractor trailers do have this idling system already, the monitoring system already inside of the truck, correct? Or?
But that's proprietary by company.
Oh, but
Again, we're borderlining on infringement. I would say would be the way to put it in this particular instance. And I get my wife's in healthcare, so I fully understand where you're coming from, and I think given the parameters and what Ms. Payne's trying to do, she's got means and methods, both by contract and by physical presence and by electronic monitoring, to control the very thing that everyone's concerned about.
Okay, because we certainly want to chase best practice.
Correct. I agree.
Right now, with the 10-minute and the 20-minute parameters that are set, there's no guarantee that will happen. So that's where I'm trying to help us scoot into best practice and make sure that there's an ability to really confirm, validate that the idling is not exceeding those parameters. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, well, we've answered my questions. I yield back to you. If there are no further questions, Board of Commissioners, I'll yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion, you've heard the questions and the answers. Do I have a motion on S 2022-15?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application S 2022-15, a request for a special use permit to allow a truck parking facility with the conditions as presented by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Planning and Zoning Board.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kurt Nicholson. I second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote on the matter. All wishing to vote in favor of approving S 2022-15, please answer in the affirmative. If you're negative, if you do not agree. Mr. Thomas?
Affirmative.
Ms. Knowles?
No.
Mr. Penniman? Mr. Penniman? Mr. Curry? I'm sorry, is that Mr. Penniman?
Yes.
What was your?
Deny.
Mr. Curry?
Yay.
Ms. Payne? Mr. Payne?
Nay.
Oh, Mr. Nicholson?
Yay.
3 yeas and 3 nays. Chairman votes yay. This will go to Board of Commissioners with an approval of S 2022-15 with a 3-4 vote by Planning and Zoning.
Thank you.
Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Mitchell?
Madam Chair, I'm gonna see. I'd like to see where the board decides to go with this. I'm gonna pause.
No, that's what I'm saying. I just said, do we have a motion? And then you take it from there.
And that's what I said. I'm gonna see where the board decides to go with this. I'm gonna pause at this point. I don't have a motion.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
make a motion to accept the recommendation to approve S 2022-15 along with the staff recommendations.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? I want to add something in terms of discussion. Planning and zoning staff, is there any way you can, I'm not sure if it's too late to add another condition. I just want to see if we could work towards a system to monitor the length of time that's been proposed, that 10-minute and that 20-minute. I know that's it's said, but sometimes, you know, everybody does not follow the rules. And so I want to make sure that we have a way to do it. I know it has to be some way, and I just ask if that condition would just be added just to make sure we just at least make an effort to do something to make sure there's some type of process or monitoring system that's implemented to just look at the time frame. That's on.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Carthen, Commissioner Carthen would have to agree to your condition. If I understand, the motion was made and seconded with the conditions as presented by P&Z staff. So if you would like to add that condition, I believe that you would have to amend the motion that Commissioner Carthen made and Commissioner Robinson seconded. And I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts, is that what you were saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's it. I think you actually have to go back. I mean, the motion coming from the P&Z board would have to include that. I think Michael Coleman's on here as well, but I think that would have to include the motion, the additional condition from Madam Chair.
From Commissioner Carthen. I don't believe it has to go back to P&Z board. They're just a recommending body.
Okay,
but I
that's
do
fine.
believe that
Carthen would have to amend hers,
Yes.
her motion to include that a requirement.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it sounds like that the chair is making a motion to amend Ms. Carthen's, Commissioner Carthen's motion to approve. So I think the first vote would be on the motion to amend. I think her request to add the condition regarding idling would be an amendment of the approval. And I think it would be a vote first then on the motion to amend, and then a vote on the motion as amended.
Yeah, please.
So Madam, let me ask this, Madam Chair, are you seeking to amend Commissioner Carthen's motion?
Yeah, with
so that you can add to provide an additional condition. So is there a second to Madam Chair's motion to amend?
Second.
Okay.
So then any discussion on the motion to amend?
Yes. I'm trying to let y'all finish. Yes.
Okay.
Because we're in discussion. Okay.
Yeah. On the motion to amend, to add the condition.
That's not one point, but I'll take it now. I'm making a point. Let me go. Okay. All right. Madam Chair?
Yes, you may have the floor.
All right. Thank you. Duly noted on the amendment, but now we're going to discuss this. I think this is an undue burden of a condition on an entrepreneur. If we're not paying attention to what he was saying, like these are for fleets that do this type of thing. I get it. If the county wants to sit there and put a condition in place for the staff to be able to go forward this, and we're going to monitor it. But I get the spirit of it. I just think that's too much of a condition That's a hard burden, right? I mean, where else are we doing this in the county? Where's the policy? Where's the code? Right? Everything else is island here. What about the gas stations? Where are you being consistent? Where are you being consistent? I got a ton of trucks. Right? They're out all day long. On Thornton. These diesel places. So I just, on this one, I'm listening to the conversation. I mean, it's in motion. I'm just bringing up, do we know what we're saying? Do we understand the context of what we're trying to apply here? So anyway, I just want to throw that out there for the sake of the discussion amongst the board. And so I respectfully yield to my peers. You have a motion and a second on that amendment, Madam Chair. I finished my discussion. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. And certainly this process can be certainly not necessarily, it's not meaning invest more dollars, but if you're going to state something within your conditions, 10 minutes to 20 minutes, there has to be some type of process, whether it's written in the contracts, because I believe she said she will be contracting with these trucks. If it's in there somewhere written, I think that'll be a measure that at least shows an effort that an effort has been made on behalf of Ms. Payne and her company. I'm not saying do anything different. I'm not asking her to spend any additional money, but if you say it, you got to have somewhere to validate it. At least it's in the document. You have made the drivers aware, and so when there is a violation, there's no room for questions. So that's why I asked it to get added. So it may just be a simple process of just making sure that that language is added within the contract. That's it. That she, during her negotiation with these various truck drivers, that was it. Nothing to spend any additional money. So, Vice Chairman, you said
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, good discussion. So this is to the attorney. Now, again, we're getting into people's business model versus the condition of zoning and special use. There's something about the facility itself. She does not own the fleet. Again, I'm getting to a place where, okay, so we're about to impose something, or at least something is being considered being imposed, and like, okay, we're getting to the business model. It's just supposed to be for zoning. I get that she measured, I guess to your point, Madam Chair, they have a contract. So the question becomes, staff, how will y'all enforce this? Staff should be responding to this. I mean, she's saying she's going to do it. So it's really staff going out there and checking. There's no more than a parking meter or something like that. This is her own. It's her business. Are we overreaching? Right? The condition is just simply what it is. That's what I'm saying. This is goes a little bit deeper on what I'm listening to you say. And I get it. I get the spirit. You know, I got you. I got that on lock. It's more of a, okay, guys. But then I want to be consistent. Now I'm going to look to the staff and say, okay, guys, weigh in. It says, okay, y'all going to keep up with this? How can we do this consistently across everything else that already exists? And if it's not, then you can make this point, bring it up later. But I just don't want just to, like, again, she doesn't own any of these fleets, as she stated. These people are independent contracts. They agreed to abide by this no different than HOA and anything else. They agreed to abide by contract for this covenant that is in writing to behave a certain way. Right? So it's like, weigh in, staff, Allison, Ron.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Robinson.
And Allison, just before you respond, I would just like to say, I probably, again, that was a concern of mine early on, and I heard 10-minute, 20-minute compared to who and how. That's my question. And if I would have never had any thought about it if it hadn't come up, it sparked my interest again, compared to who, what, and how. And so tell me how the staff will monitor this, since it's, was mentioned. I'm not sure if it's written somewhere, but it was mentioned.
Yes, ma'am. So I believe that if you are inclined to make this a condition of zoning approval, and if you are inclined to accept a contract as sufficient documentation, that is what Ms. Payne had submitted to us as part of the application, that these would be provisions in the contract. To the point that Commissioner Robinson had made, you are correct. We did not expressly condition that, even though the applicant had told us that in advance. We do have that in writing from the applicant. For exactly the reasons you're discussing here. It is what would the enforcement mechanism of that look like. Now, that being said, if this is a concern of the commissioners, and Commissioner Robinson had suggested this, it's starting to sound to me very similar to some of the language that we use for HOAs with their covenants. So at the time that we approve their final plat, we look for a copy of their covenants to be submitted to the county, and we look to make sure that their covenants at the time they are approved are compatible with the language in our ordinance. So if you were inclined to make this a condition, I would suggest that we take a similar process here, where the applicant would provide to us the sample of the contract to lease the spaces that will reflect the limitation on time for truck idling as identified in the application. So it would be a one-time, very similar with an HOA covenant. It is a one-time provision that we monitor, and we would require that as a condition of the sign-off of the Development Review Committee. But I would agree, I think, with the point that Commissioner Robinson is raising, that any kind of ongoing monitoring and enforcement, I think would be burdensome. And if we were to say to you here this evening that we would think that would be an easy thing for staff to do, I don't think that we would be genuinely reflecting what would be the case. I think that would be very burdensome for us to take on in an ongoing capacity.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay.
We could do it as a one-time condition, very similar to how we look at covenants when an HOA is created.
Vice Chairman, are you okay with that one time? It was just mentioned. I didn't know where it was written. Was it in the application? It's just in the application. Is that what you're saying? It's within the application, the provision. Is that
yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. She submitted it as a part of the application materials, so we did include it in our presentation to demonstrate the overall intent of how the property would be operated. Again, I think through some of the feedback that we had at the community information meeting, and Ms. Payne alluded to this, I think that there were concerns that the site would be operated like a truck stop as opposed to a truck parking facility. So she had offered that language as a part of the application to clarify her intent. It was deliberate on the part of staff to not include it as a condition for the reasons that we've discussed about the ongoing maintenance and monitoring of it. But staff is perfectly agreeable to kind of including it as a condition, sort of as a one-time, submit that contract up front at the time that DRC approves the site plan, so that we will have that as a part of the record.
Right, but right at this point, I'm having second thoughts. Certainly want to rescind the amendment simply because we have not required this for others. I just heard the 20 minutes, the 10 minutes. I just wanted to know where it was written and how and who, how are we going to monitor it? It was a very good question, but at this time we haven't done it for others, and I believe in that. I want to make sure that we're equal across the board. I don't want to do anything for this applicant that we haven't done for others, but it is within the application, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to rescind the amendment. Can I do that?
Withdraw your amendment, Madam Chair. So the discussion now is on. So discussion is now on the motion.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. The amendment has been the motion to amend is withdrawn.
Did Madam got to pull up her second of that?
I withdraw my second.
Okay, thank you. Now I have clarity. I don't want to do anything for one applicant and not the other. I believe in being fair. Okay, so with that being said, Board of Commissioners, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond accordingly unless there's some more discussion. Okay, District 1.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes, we have a 4-1 vote and the motion carries. All right, Board of Commissioners, and I'll yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Mr. Simmons had to step away. Rob Thomas is going to step in as chairman.
Okay.
Vice Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, hi, thank you. Ms. Payne, congratulations. You've been approved. Go forth and do well.
Thank you, Zoning Board of Commissioners. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next agenda item, please?
Sure will. S2022-16, DXD F1 Land, LLC, property owner Guyan Hospitality, LLC. The location is 895 Thornton Road, Lithia Springs, land lot 581, District 18, Section 2, and Parcel 6. Current zoning is CH heavy commercial. This is a request for special use permit for a multi-story climate-controlled storage facility on 2.45 acres in District 2. The proposed use is a self-serve climate-controlled storage facility. Staff's recommendation is approval with conditions.
Mr. Vice Chair, it's Phil. This is Phil Schaefer. This is my case to report. And I will begin here. The property is located west of Thornton Road on the north side of Blair's Way in the commercial development housing the Home Depot, among other commercial and office spaces. The site is surrounded on all four sides by existing drive aisles and parking areas. The site is graded and partially landscaped. The site has access to water and sewer connections in the adjoining roadways. The proposal is to develop a self-serve 830-unit climate-controlled 3-story storage facility. A zoning of the property is a CHC, as is the property you see here, all in hatching. CH is the gas station immediately to their east along Thornton Road. The CG zoning to their west is the Home Depot. This is an aerial photograph of the site. It's outlined here in blue and it's colored slightly in orange so you can see the tract that is involved in the project. The proposal is to develop a parcel here as a 3-story building on the property that is graded out and ready to be built. This is a draft of the elevations for the project showing the different materials that will be employed: brick along with stone and stucco facades. This is another elevation of the property. Here is a picture of the existing animal hospital that is directly across the drive aisle from the proposed building, showing the brick and stucco building materials that have been employed in several of the structures over on this property. Here is the Bojangles. Again, this is adjacent to the property as the property exits onto Thornton, again showing the brick facades and the stucco facades. Here's the other 2 properties along Thornton Road that were a part of the original approval for this 4-lot subdivision, commercial subdivision, T-Mobile and Bojangles, with the hospital, animal hospital in the background there. This is a picture of the site itself as it currently sits. As you can see, it does have some modest tree cover landscape around the perimeter. Here's another view. This one's a bit more in the fall. And then a view looking in towards the Home Depot from Blair's Way. This would be classified as the southeast corner. As you can see, road network surrounds the property. And there's a picture of the entry from Thornton Road onto the property. I'll show you this picture, which it happens to be another storage building that was built off the east side of Thornton Road as Blair's Bridge makes the curve on its way up into Mableton to the east. This was built a couple of years ago. A portion of this property is in our county and the rear portion is in Cobb County. The proposed special use does meet all of the criteria for issuing a special use, and staff is recommending approval of the special use permit with the findings as follows. A, the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as within the Commerce Center area, incorporating mixed commercial, residential, and industrial uses. And C, the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. We do have a couple of conditions that I've suggested for this one. One, additional site improvements for paved parking or driveways and for construction of the storage facilities will require review and authorization prior to installation by the Development Review Committee. 2, any other use of the property not identified within Section 210, uses allowed in each zoning district, specifically Table 2.2, principal uses allowed by right, and 2.3, accessory uses allowed by right of the Douglas County Unified Development Code may require the submission, review, and approval of a new special use permit. And 3, parking must be contained within the property. No on-street parking along or in the public rights-of-way shall be permitted. And as we mentioned, staff is directed to go out at the anniversary if you choose to approve this and verify all conditions have been met. And I believe that the applicant's representative is Joe Fowler. He is on the line and available.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Will the applicant or the representative, in this case, Mr. Joe Fowler, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and present any information that you would like for the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners to hear. You have a total of 15 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville. Allow me to introduce Mr. Brian Walsh, who's a representative of the applicant. And also along with us is Mr. Roddy Blakely, who's the engineer on the project, as well as one of the architects on the project. Brandon, what is your last name? I saw it.
It's Arroyo, A-R-R-O-Y-O.
All right, thank you, Brandon. I apologize for that. As noted, this parcel is adjacent to the Home Depot on what has been a subdivided parcel of that tract for a long, long time. It's just under 2.5 acres. It's a vacant out parcel, obviously, but it's part of the same commercial subdivision that is in that immediate area. Approval of this use of that property has already been approved by those who are part of that covenant arrangement. The building will be, as noted, 3 stories with a basement, but with a height not to exceed 50 feet. The facility, as noted again, brick, stucco, glass, and aluminum. Normal hours of operation would be weekdays 9:30 to 6, weekends 9 to 5:30. However, it will be open every day for key card uses by tenants from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. The building's about 100,000 square feet, fully climate controlled, 830 total units. We looked into this and the traffic counts projected are quite low, 12 cars per hour in the AM peak, 18 cars per hour in the afternoon peak. So minimal traffic, the estimated use per week, 230 cars only. There are security cameras throughout the facility with full recording 24/7 for security purposes. This is, as you know, is a request for a special use permit in this heavy commercial zoning district. We appreciate your approval. The conditions on page 10 that Phil mentioned are acceptable to the applicant. If you've got any questions for the architect, Brandon can address that. Rodney can deal with engineering issues, and then Brian, of course, as a representative of the applicant, can discuss operational matters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's our presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Yes, sir.
I'm going now to open to the public hearing. Anyone in favor and wishes to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, then make any comments you would like. You have 3 minutes each with a total of 30 minutes. This is anyone in favor of this application. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to anyone in opposition of this application. If you're in opposition of this application, wishes to speak, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, then make any comments you would like. You have 3 minutes each with a total of 30 minutes. Opposition to this application. All right, hearing none, going to close the public hearing at this time. Planning and zoning, if you have any questions for the applicant. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none, Madam Chair, I yield the floor to you. Any questions from the Board of Commissioners?
Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions at this time? Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the applicant, I do have just a couple of questions. I do understand where this is being placed at Home Depot. Remind me again, how many units is this 100,000 square foot facility going to have?
Roughly 830.
All right, 830. Nice size. And you talked about truck traffic. Well, not truck traffic, but you said that how many cars per day? You minimized it, but I get the point. The truck traffic going back and there behind the McDonald's, around the Home Depot, around, not McDonald's, the other area, cutting up through the Burger King, etc., that main light. But it's climate controlled. I will back my truck up into it, or tell me how it's going to work for the public. I'm going to drive I'm moving. I'm going to store some stuff. What can I store in there? And is it a loading dock? Is it, I get to drive up in? Talk to me, how do I get the stuff off? How I brought it to that facility, the transition period, and how do I get it inside my box?
So typically the largest truck is going to be, a U-Haul box truck. There's not going to be any semis here. We've created, if you go to the site plan, there are a few loading zones where cars can pull off. So there's a larger loading zone down below where, say a box truck could stay. There's canopies, so cars would back in. There's bollards, sidewalk. They would retrieve a cart from inside the building, roll it out, place their items on it. The travel distances on the interior, we try to position the elevators in such a way where it's no greater than 150 feet to the furthest unit. The largest unit size is 10 by 30. So 10 by 30, 300 square feet, you can fit, some furniture, some larger items, and then it goes all the way down to a 5 by 5 unit. We try to have, only a handful of the larger units. The ideal unit size is roughly a 10 by 10. It's mostly household items, clothing, maybe some small furniture.
Gotcha. All right, second question, and so you picked this area obviously by design for that many units, so I'm going to allow that to lay as is. We understand the market, while it's hot for those who can afford homes, we know the affordability is the other side of the equation. It's not necessarily being said, so there is some instability out there. So what is the demand? I'm just curious as to why 800 units versus 500 versus 1,000. Just
so
why was
yeah,
that?
There's really a sweet spot, right? Because the cost of the building, and we've done our analysis on this market. It's in secular growth, self-storage.
Yep.
Prices are rising because supply is shrinking. Given the rising housing market, there's more renters now. Work from home has caused people to free up space in their homes so they can work. Offices have been closing, letting people work from home, so there's more demand from businesses to potentially store some stuff. And again, we've done a rate analysis of this market. It's very strong. We've surveyed the adjacent facilities. They have very high occupancy. We've projected this facility to lease up roughly in 36 months.
That's fine. I got it. So then my last question, I'll yield respectfully to my peers, is these, I get the size, I get the speed, the number of people that you may be targeting, and you said 36 months, and, that was a question. All right, so in the heavy, this is zone heavy commercial, tell me if I'm wrong, staff, but let me keep going.
That's correct.
Heavy commercial.
Heavy commercial.
And so obviously it fits. My question then becomes, is that did you talk to the commercial neighbors around there? And obviously nobody's on there, but they're commercial. They're not like residential. So to staff, what was the feedback to, what about the neighbors? Commercial neighbors that this is sitting in. Did they talk to them at all? Did we have any conversations, or how did that work?
All were invited to the community meeting, which we had, and no communication has happened since we advertised. Not a single commercial neighbor has said a word.
I get it. I understand how it fits into the footprint, but I just had to ask the question.
Yep.
I think that's still important. still got to talk to the neighbors. So at least your staff, you're validating that they did attempt, you did help facilitate. That true? Yes, no?
Yes, we did. We held the community meeting. All neighbors were provided written invites through their public notices that there would be that meeting as well as this meeting, so they were aware, and no one attended the community meeting.
Right. You mentioned something about a covenant in that area. Who said that earlier? Maybe some type of contract or covenant in that area? Maybe
It was I, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Okay, say it again for me, just for the record.
Yeah, Brian, would you explain what went on with respect to that?
Yeah, so essentially there's a reciprocal easement agreement in place with Home Depot and the adjacent, the animal hospital and the adjacent Bojangles restaurant.
Yep.
Home Depot has consented to this project. You know, I've talked with them, I've sent them plans, we're in constant communication, so we do have their written consent, which was required under the REA.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. And staff, you can validate that. Do they submit that as part of their package?
Yeah.
All right. That's what I needed. You sufficiently answered my question. Madam Chair, I'm going to give the floor back to you. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other questions for the applicant or staff, Board of Commissioners? If not, I yield back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chairman Thomas.
Planning and zoning.
Okay, there you go. Chairman Thomas, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Planning and zoning, I'd like to ask for a motion on the board. Planning and zoning, I'd like to ask for a motion from the board.
This is Frank Payne.
Oh, go ahead.
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-16, a request for a special use permit. S 2022-16 to allow a two-story self-service, climate-controlled storage facility with the following findings and conditions as outlined by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Phil. Just quickly, the applicant has asked for a 3-story, so we wrote that before we were aware that the 3rd story was in there. So if Mr. Payne is willing, we'd appreciate if we could just add that. It's a 3-story building, not a 2.
Okay. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-16, a request for a special use permit. S 2022-16 to allow a 3-story self-service, climate-controlled storage facility with the following findings and conditions as presented by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. May I have a second? As I call your name, could you please vote in affirmative or oppose? Teresa Knowles?
Yay.
Brandon Penniman?
Yay.
Mr. Curry?
Yay.
And Mr. Payne?
Yay.
Mr. Nichols?
No.
And Vice Chair Rob Thomas? Yay. Madam Chair, we'll turn it back over to you with an approval, a 5-1 approval of S 2022-16.
Thank you so much, Chairman Thomas. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes, I make a recommendation to approve S 2022-16 as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board, along with the recommendation for staff with conditions and findings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, board, on the floor. Do we have any discussion? Okay, there's no discussion. We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond accordingly. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. I yield back to you, Chairman Thomas.
Briggs back now.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners. We wish you all the best on this going forward down on Thornton Road.
Thank you very much, Greg, and others. Good night, everybody.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Good night.
Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our next and last agenda item, please?
Yes, it's a bit of housekeeping, Chairman. Z 2022-17. The applicant is Douglas County. Property owners MN Commercial Properties LLC. Location North Burnt Hickory and Industrial Access Road within land lot 558, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 01. Current zoning is PSP, public, semi-public. The request is to rezone to reestablish the industrial zoning on private property as existed prior to the conversion to public use due to ownership changes. This is 11.51 acres in District 1. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case. Mr. Schaefer, would you give us the background, staff findings, and recommendations, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So as most of us know, this property was originally the Greystone training grounds for their linemen. And for many, many years, the Greystone office and this property were both zoned light industrial. At the end of last year, what happened is the Greystone folks were selling the property on the east side of North Burnt Hickory to the school board. That negotiation took some time, and in the interim, we had proposed to rezone all of the property that is in public, semi-public hands by ownership into the public and semi-public district, which you all approved in the January 2021 meeting. In April of 2021, after lengthy negotiations with the school board as well as with the private owners here to the west of North Burnt Hickory, the transaction for the school board to take over the Greystone offices took place, and a private owner came back under possession of the actual training facilities on the west side. And so under Article 1, when land that has been zoned public comes back under private ownership, we are required to rezone that property. Now, it's one of those where we knew there were negotiations going on. However, we went ahead and rezoned as much as we could catch into the public district. And then there's that time lag when deeds and et cetera start to become visible in the system. So at the time we proposed this, it was in fact a public, semi-public entity under ownership. But within a couple of months of that approval, it turns out that the transaction took it back into private ownership. So we are seeking on behalf of the owner to restore that light industrial designation, as they didn't buy it for public, semi-public, and it's not appropriate as a public, semi-public district for their development plans. Originally, last year in the summer, we had seen a two-structure proposal for this property before we had actually rezoned it. The owners of the public part are also the owners of this light industrial part at the corner. So they own both, and they were anticipating being able to use both. So we're acting on their behalf to simply rezone it back to light industrial in the effort to make sure they get to use the land in privately capacity under industrial zoning. As I said, it was done in April of 2021 when they finally concluded the purchase, and it was January of 21 when we actually adopted that overall rezoning. Here's a picture of the property. As you can see, it was the old Greystone lineman training facility. This is the picture along Industrial Access Boulevard for their property on the north edge. Signs for the posted on Industrial Access. Obviously, the rezoning criteria are all met, as it was originally light industrially zoned, and staff recommends approval with the following findings: that number one, the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. Number two, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan. Categorization of this property is within the workplace center area, incorporating commercial and industrial uses. Three, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are generally compatible with surrounding residential properties. And four, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. And with that, I'll conclude. If you have any questions or discussion, I'll be happy to address them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. I don't believe we have an applicant to present anything here. I believe you are probably as close to the applicant as we can get at this time.
I'm it.
At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes with a total allocated of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing or seeing none, I will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing none or seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Schaefer? Hearing none, I believe, Mr. Schaefer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically this is just a simple matter of cleaning up and putting the property back the way it should have been, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'll yield the floor to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have of Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Schaefer at this time? Okay, being none, I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion, please?
This is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion to approve application Z 2022-17, a request for rezoning from public semi-public to light industrial to reestablish industrial zoning on private property as existed prior to conversion to public use due to ownership change, with the findings as presented by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, I second.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. I have a motion and I have a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Planning and Zoning Board, as I call your name, please vote in the affirmative and the negative on this matter to approve the rezoning of the property there on Burnt Hickory Road. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Yay.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Mr. Nicholson.
Yay.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So I will throw it over to you, Madam Chairman, to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous approval to rezone Z 2022-17 from public, semi-public to light industrial.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion? Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I make a motion we approve Z 2022-17 as recommended by staff and approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? We have a motion and a second. When I call your districts, please respond accordingly. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries to approve Z 2022-17. Okay, I'll yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Roberts, I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda tonight, do we?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, at this point in time, I will adjourn the Planning and Zoning Board and turn it over to the Board of Commissioners Chairman, Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any other comments or remarks that can be made? I see you sitting up, Vice Chairman Robinson. You have anything?
No, I'm ready to say goodbye.
Oh,
We're good.
okay. I see you sitting up. I said, okay. Anyway, certainly, if there's no further business to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.